as a proper African child, you know all your important documents are with your mother, okay? I wanted this to be the first year where I celebrate my birthday on the day I was actually born. However, life happened and that hasn't been the case. Hello, my name is Muthoni. Welcome to the first episode of Just Doing Life, the podcast, a space where we explore all the parts of life that we do not like to say out loud. After all, we're all just winging it. This being the first episode, the first official episode, I thought it would be a great place to start with who I am, what I'm about, what to expect moving forward, what this podcast is about, and all the juicy stuff up in there. So first of all, I just turned 33, and if everything went right, you are listening or watching this episode on my birthday. And the funny thing about that is that I wanted this to be the first year where I celebrate my birthday on the day I was actually born. However, life happened and that hasn't been the case, because a couple of years ago, I discovered that I had been celebrating my birthday a day after. So what had happened was, since I was a child, I used to celebrate my birthdays on the 23rd of August, and that was it. Like, my mom told me that's my birthday, so that's when I used to celebrate. Then a couple of years ago, I needed to apply for my passport thanks to our work opportunity. So I was just like, hey, let's go get that passport. So I went to apply for a passport. I did my application online as usual, got all my papers, all the things I needed. Went and looked for my great-great-grandfather's chief's camp, whatever, signatory. You know all the things they ask for when you're trying to apply for a passport. Like, it's such a tedious process. So I went and got all the necessary documents, including my birth certificate, which I got from my mom, because as a proper African child, you know all your important documents are with your mother, okay? Even if you're an adult, all your important documents are always with your mom. She's the one who knows where everything is, okay? So I went and got my birth certificate. Didn't look at it. I was like, I just needed it. Got all the copies of IDs and everything. I show up at the immigration house, whatever, Sharia house. It's not Sharia house. That one is called what? Nyayo house, yeah. So I show up at Nyayo house with all my 2 documents. I queue, and then I get to the counter. I give this lady all my 2 thingies, and she goes like, I don't think I'm going to be able to process your documents. And I'm just like, but why not? Why? And then she tells me, all your documents say you were born on the 23rd, but you have one document that says you were born on the 22nd. And that document was the birth certificate. Of all documents, the one that, like, the number 1 document was the one that had, okay, when I think about it, it's the one that had the wrong birthday. So I had to go to Upper Hill and sort that out. The interesting thing that I didn't know, when I got to Upper Hill, I was given this huge book because I was asked they looked where I was born and the year and the month. And then they had like this analog books that have been filled in with biro pens by doctors. And we opened the book. We went all the way to, I don't remember if it had like other years, but I know we were in 1990, and then we flipped through until we got to August, and then we started going through the dates, and there was my name, and they were like, yeah, so you were born on the 22nd. The thing is, I think I'm attached to the 23rd because that's the date I've always known. I have caught feelings when bad things have happened on the 23rd because I'm like, these things are here to ruin my birthday. So now I'm like, I have no attachment to the 22nd. I don't even know stuff that happens on the 22nd. I don't know people who are born on the 22nd because I've never bothered to find out. Because I can tell you, like this famous basketball player was also born on August 23rd. Why? Because I was invested. Me and that date, we were attached, okay? So this year, for some random reason, I don't know if it was random or not, I was like, would it be weird to celebrate my birthday on the 22nd? And it wasn't like more about even the celebration. It was because I wanted this episode to drop on my birthday. So I was like, so does it drop on the 22nd or 23rd? And I guess I'm still attached. I guess I am still attached. So yeah, anyway, that's so happy birthday to me as you're listening to this. Yay. I just turned 33, so my Jesus year. I'm hoping that it's going to be a really good year, though. I am. I'm hoping it's going to be a good year. So when I started my YouTube journey, I was about to say whatever years ago. I don't remember how many they were. I'm not sure. I think at this point we're like 8 years. So I started my journey in content creation and being out here in 2015 officially. 2015, that's when I posted. It was January 2015 when I posted my first video on YouTube. Prior to that, the year before, I had a meeting with a couple of my friends. So this was when I had the idea to start a YouTube channel. So I called up a couple of my friends and I told them I wanted to start a YouTube channel, and I told them what it was going to be about. And hey, I had big dreams. Yeah, I had big. So I wanted to create a show. I wanted it to be a show where we talk about all the things that people don't like talking about. I think that's always been my thing. It's like, y'all don't want to talk about divorcing, then I'm going to talk about it. You don't want to talk about abortions, I'm going to talk about it. Because for me, those are things that are part of life. And it was, at that time, I remember like, mental health was also something that was so important to me, because I was like, how is it that no one talks? Like, well, at that point, a lot of people were not talking about mental health like people talk about it now. And I'm so grateful that we are having more conversations about things like mental health and all these other things. So for me, I was just like, that's what I want to talk about. And I was like, I want to talk about the things that are considered to be African taboo topics. They're not taboo everywhere. They're taboo within the confines of like our communities, our tribes, our cultures, and I guess at large our continent, right? So I wanted to invite professionals. I wanted to invite experts and my friends and stuff. I was like, oh, we're going to have like, I wanted to have like panels, you know, big dreams, big dreams. So I was so sure that that's what I wanted to do, but I knew I wasn't going to be able to do it by myself. So what I did is I hit up a couple of friends, and I was very strategic with the friends that I chose to call. So I called 2 friends who I knew had cameras. Smart girl. I called another friend of mine who at that time was working in sound a lot. So I was like, you're going to handle the sound. And I also had a friend who was a writer. We used to write together. So I was like, now I'll have a co-writer. Like, we'll have a way to, you know, get this stuff out there. So I remember we meet at the Power rooftop at that time, because I was working from Power 254. So we met at the rooftop and I'm telling them my big dreams, and they're like, wow, we should really do this. That's a dope idea. We should definitely do it. And I'm like, yes, you are seeing the vision. Let's do it. And then they ghosted. They didn't like ghost me. They ghosted the idea. Like, basically, life happened. So they are still, you know, doing their jobs. People are living their lives. And so was I. But it was like at no point were we meeting. It was just always like trying to catch up, you know, like every time you're like, hey, just following up. Hey, when do you think we will be able to do this? And it was like that a lot. So that dream died there. Okay. At that time, I didn't think died. It was like dream postponed. Okay. We'll get back to you later. So at that point, I was like, okay, it's fine. So now in 2015, when I started doing creating content on YouTube, again, same strategy. Call up people who have cameras. So I hit up a couple of friends of mine. I started with one. So I started creating my content in 2015 January with a friend of mine called Robert. He's a travel photographer. He does documentaries and such. So I called him and I said, hey, so I have this idea and I want to shoot a couple of videos and I want to post them online. And he was like, okay, cool. When do you want to do it? He came through. I remember we shot 3 videos, and the first video I ever shot, which now when I think about it, I feel so sad that I deleted it. We'll get to that in a few. I feel so sad because it would have been like a really, really cool looking back moment. But at that time, I was living in Athi River, so he came over to my house. I had already prepared everything I was going to shoot for that day. So I think we shot 3 videos, if I'm not wrong. The first video I ever shot was like a face mask. It was a turmeric face mask. Then I did a red lipstick tutorial. It was basically skincare. And after we shot that, I remember he ended up becoming too busy, because remember, he does travel, so he's not around all the time. And then I hit up another friend of mine called Mohoho Masharia, again, another photographer. And I was like, hey, do you want to help me shoot my content? And he's like, sure. So my thing was, if I can batch record, so I record a lot of footage, and then I'm like, if I can shoot content for 1 month within a day, that was always my strategy. He used to live and work in Nairobi and Nakuru, so he would travel back and forth. And again, it wasn't sustainable. So I ended up hitting up my friend Chule, and I was like, hey, do you wanna help me shoot my content? And he's like, yes. And now for him, he even had lights, which by the way are the same lights that I'm using right now in this house this many years later. So I was just like, hey, look at us. Because, before we were shooting using natural lights, we were chasing the sunlight every single time. But at that time, I used to have to go all the way to his house, because then now him coming with his lights and whatever, it was going to be hectic. So I used to pack up a backpack with a change of clothes for the number of videos that I'm going to shoot. And I would also carry all the ingredients if I was doing like makeup, skincare, whatever. And then I had a system on how we would shoot that content. So we used to start with anything that requires, so any skincare was always fast because it requires me to be barefaced. So I would start with skincare, then I would always end with like a makeup tutorial. No, actually, I would end with like something that now requires me to have a full face of makeup. So we would build on that again, shoot a bunch of videos, because I remember at that time he used to live in Raka. I live in Athi River, so I would commute all the way with all my things. We shoot all day, then I go back with I used to look like a camper with my backpack all the way back to Athi River, and then I would go and start editing and post the videos, like once a week. I was really trying with the once a week thing. So that's how I found myself in the world of content creation. And over time, my videos have evolved. I started out with like the skincare, the makeup, and then on the weekends, I used to do like crafty stuff and DIYs, but I never used to film that. So anytime I would post on socials that it's like, oh, check out what I made over the weekend, guys would be like, oh, do you have a video on that? And I'd be like, no, I just made it. Then be like, oh, you should start posting that as well. So I was like, you guys care about like the DIY thingies. Okay, cool. So I started sharing the crafty stuff as well. And now we are here where we're doing renovations and all. It's been quite the journey, really. And back at the back of my head, through all this, I still knew what the dream was. Remember the dream that we postponed? It was always like having those conversations. So back in 2021, I sort of started having those conversations when I created a channel on YouTube called Just Doing Life. At that point, I used to be joined by the person I was in a relationship with. And once a week, we'd sit down and pick a topic and have a conversation about it. So we talked about culture, we've talked about gender roles, we talked about being child-free, we talked about, I don't think we talked about dowry though, but we had a lot of conversations. Just our take on different things. You want to sit here? Okay, we've just been joined by one of the co-hosts. He's trying to get... why are we hitting my microphone? Sit. See, I've moved for you. Come, sit back here. Okay, I hope you're going to be comfortable. So Ziggy just joined. Ziggy is my youngest cat at the moment. And he likes to follow me around like he's my shadow. So please don't hit the Nini. Just sit there, okay? When that relationship ended, those conversations sort of ended. Well, technically they took a break, but I was thinking of how I was going to bring them back. And that's how this podcast was born, because I wanted to still have a space and have room for these conversations in the content creation work that I do. And I wanted to have some sort of structure because I wanted to not have these conversations by myself, but to have my friends come over, invite different people to have different conversations with them, depending on who's best to have what conversation with. So that was the birth of this podcast. And I'm so excited to delve deeper into these conversations and continue talking about these things because I think they're important. As I've been working towards putting together this podcast, there's one thing that I've really been trying to focus on as a creator and also as a person who presents as a Black woman on this earth. And it's about joy. The last 2 years, there's been a lot of change in my life. Change that wasn't necessarily anticipated, but it happened. Cine life. Cine life. So there's been a lot of change in my life, and I've been learning more about myself. I've been relearning and unlearning a lot of different things. I have been learning to love myself. I've been learning to seek joy for myself. And that's one thing that I definitely want to achieve with this podcast. I want to celebrate joyous moments, and I want to seek joy as much as I can, like seek stories of joy, seek experiences of joy. And it's because we have so many stories about the strong Black woman. We have so many stories about if you struggle, eventually it's going to pay out. We have so many stories about trauma and how trauma holds us back. And there's a space for all that. For me, I just don't want this space to be for that. I want this space to be a space of joy, a space of color, a space of laughter. And even when we talk about these hard, heavy, concerning topics, I would want us to seek joy in them and through them, and just learn from different people about how they find joy. Because I feel like it sounds like a really simple concept, like being happy sounds like a really simple concept, but we know it's not. Like in theory, being happy sounds so easy. But practically, when you get to the practicals, it is not as easy as it sounds in theory. And so I want this space to be that place you come and find joyous stories. You find joyous experiences. We have a good laugh. We make bad jokes. Well, good jokes as well. But I want this space to be a place that exudes joy through and through, always. So I hope that's something that you're into, because that's what we'll be doing over here. I believe we deserve stories of joy. Okay. So even like when it comes to reading, I've been looking for books that don't depict the struggling wife. And, after the husband has whatever so many million times and she's forgiving him and she's going back home and she's being told, Vumilia. I have been looking for books that depict joyous moments of African women especially. So if you know of any books, kindly suggest them to me, because I'm looking for them. And I don't want to read books I don't want to read any struggle books anymore. I don't want to read rags to riches all the time. I don't want that. I want someone who's just enjoying life. And that's what I want us to do here. I want us to enjoy life. I want you to enjoy being here because you are enjoying life. And we are learning how to enjoy life together. We are going to have conversations about being a single woman and being okay with it. I want you to expect stories of joy. I want you to expect maybe a bit of laughter, quirkiness, weirdness, love, because yeah, learning new things and unlearning as well, you know, because I feel like there's some things that we definitely do need to unlearn. And also unlearning is a process, and it takes effort, it takes work, it takes intentionality for that to happen. So I want us to be very intentional as we move forward. As you come to listen every single week, I want you to purpose for joy. Like every week, I'd want us to share how we found joy, things that brought us joy, be it that week, that day, anything that brings you joy. The small things that we can. I want you to learn to look for joy even in the smallest of places, because I think every ounce of joy matters, every ounce of happiness. Even if it was for like all of 5 seconds and then the rest of the world decided to descend on you. Because I feel like if we focus more on those parts, then we'll find more of them. Because now it's taking your gaze away from the world is falling apart because have you been outside, you know? But you're like, hey, but I saw a yellow bird today, you know? That's, for me, that's what I want. That's what I want you to experience every single time you listen or watch an episode over here. I hope you are excited for what's to come. We'll be talking to different people about how they've experienced life and what they've learned from it, and trying to find the joyous moments where we can. So I'm really excited for that. I'm extremely excited to see where this goes. I am excited for this new journey. Thank you so much for being a part of the first episode of this podcast. Listening, watching, leaving a comment, because I trust you're doing that. Please do go and follow the podcast pages on Instagram. Well, we just have Instagram because here Twitter is another one. So you can just follow the Instagram page. The handle is at JDL, the podcast. And subscribe to the YouTube channel if you are yet to, if you prefer to watch, because we are going to have both audio and video episodes. So if you would like to join the visual fam, you can just go subscribe to the YouTube channel, and you can also follow the podcast on all your favorite podcasting platforms. Thank you so much for spending your time here, for taking the time to listen. Thank you so much, and have yourself a lovely week.